Hello, everybody. How's it going? Azren, the language nerd here. I'm the owner of the Calgary Language Nerds. My team and I, we teach a wide variety of foreign languages to people of all ages, whether you're an adult, a teenager, a child, doesn't matter. We can work with you. And of course, people of all levels of fluency, whether you are beginner, intermediate, super advanced, it doesn't matter. We have a tutor that can help you out and basically assist you and guide you to your fluency goals. And welcome to the next video in the series on how to learn another language. Let's get right into the topic today. We're continuing where we left off last time. We are partway through the chapter on jobs and learning about work vocabulary and work-related topics. And so let's take up there. Let's take up where we left off. Okay, so a very vocabulary heavy and actually potentially grammar heavy section here, because now we're going to get into modals. So whether or not you know what a modal is, that's not the most important thing in the world. I'll be honest with you, I didn't really know what modals were myself. I understood the concept of a modal. I didn't know that they were called modals, okay? And so basically these are, in simple terms, these are very common modal verbs that we have in English right here. If I were to be perfectly open with you, I think these two here are quite similar, and I would not be opposed to you just learning one of them. I would not be opposed to you going, I'm not going to learn must. I'm just going to scratch this out. I'm only going to learn need, for example. Depends on the language you're learning, of course, because maybe your language, the language you're learning distinguishes between must and need. I don't know. But basically a modal verb, the way they work is they're always combined with something else, right? So must is your modal verb, and it's followed by another verb right after, which is write, right? So we have two different verbs in a row. I must write, two verbs. And you can't just do I must reports weekly. Like you need that verb write. You need that second verb directly after must, right? I need to finish my presentation. I can speak to my friends. I am allowed to drive my company car. I want to be the team leader, okay? Every language is going to treat modals differently, and there might be grammatical points you have to figure out, and you might have to talk to your tutor or your language partner to figure out what's the grammar behind this section here. How does that work? Heck, it might be really complex. It really depends on the language. It really is going to depend. But these are important words, and they allow you to go pretty far, like especially things like want, right? Like I'm not, as I look at these, right, I'm allowed to. It's great to know, but if you were to skip it, I wouldn't hold it against you, let's say. If you're like, Azren, I don't really want to learn I'm allowed. When am I going to use that? Like, I don't know. I'd be like, okay, I get it. But for example, things like I can, oh my God, we use can all the time. Can and can't. Lord, oh Lord, we learn those. We use those all the time. Or like, I want to. Oh my God, how many times do we talk about things we want to do? Like all the time. So, these modals are pretty important. Whether or not you can pick and choose which ones you feel are important. That's the beauty of this program, in my opinion. It's very personalizable. You can pick and choose certain things you want to learn. You can leave the rest aside, and that's perfectly fine. So, but you do have to learn some of these modals. So as usual, you guys have probably understood the pattern now. We have a little chart here you can fill out to basically translate must, need to, can, to be allowed to do something, or to want to do something. There's an extra page for those who purchase the workbook to add in any other modals that are relevant to the language you're learning or that you want to learn. As a reminder, I've put a lot of these verbs in the, like there's a to before it. As a reminder, certain languages have a concept called the infinitive, which is kind of like a standard version of a verb. And if you know that standard version, it allows you to be quite nimble in using that verb in different contexts. So if your language has infinitives, we've mentioned these before, it's not the first time in this course. If your language has infinitives, it may be beneficial to learn it in the infinitive, or at a minimum, you should know how to use it in the I form, like have a couple sentences you can use with these like pretty quickly that you're just going to use all the time. Even that can be quite beneficial. So here's what you can use there. Okay, so you got to go learn these. So talk to your tutor, talk to your speaking partner, use Google, use YouTube. In the previous video, I demonstrated how you might use Google or YouTube to figure out how to say things. Maybe you already know how to say some of these. And so this is something that is important to go through. As a final reminder, some languages may approach these structures differently, so make sure your notes are as detailed as needed to create natural sounding phrases. This is going to be really important because boy, oh boy, I have a funny feeling depending on the language, this might get pretty complex. Some languages might be a little easier, but like imagine if you're learning French and your tutor tells you something like il faut que je fasse or something, like that's going to throw your brain for such a loop. Like, so be mentally prepared here, and you may skip some things and come back to them later because it's just way too hard. As usual, we have a writing practice section. This is some rules at work. So we all have rules that we have to follow at work. There's things that we have to do, that we need to do, that we're allowed to do, that we can do, but maybe we don't do. So I put some examples here. I must always check my emails. I need to speak to my clients a lot. I can usually work with my team. I'm allowed to bring my pets to work, or maybe I'm not allowed to bring my pets to work, depends on the person. So I've just put a couple of blank spaces here of where you can fill out things you must do at work, things you need to do at work, things you can do at work, things you're allowed to do at work. If you want to add any additional sentences or additional modal verbs, there's some space in this workbook that you could purchase if you'd like to on my website. And you can kind of write in any additional ones you want to write in, any additional rules. We're going to get to the speaking practice here, where you're going to talk to your speaking partner or your tutor. And here are some different questions you may choose to ask. What is something you should do but don't? Actually, I need to go back up here. I just realized perhaps a small mistake in the workbook. Perhaps. Let me just go back up. Yes, I just realized that should is not one of the modals that I told you to learn. Okay, I'm going to fix that. So I'll fix that by the time anyone has this workbook, it'll be fixed. So should is another modal that you can choose to learn. And I'll make sure that's adjusted. So what is something you should do but don't? I might just take that question out just to make things simple. What is something you want to do but you can't? What is something you have to do every day? What is something you're not allowed to do? So these are different things you can talk about with your language exchange partner. I said in the previous video that it's important to mix structure and organic learning together to create a nice marriage, and you'll learn nice and rapidly doing that. So I want you to ask these questions, but I don't want you to get stuck in just answering these questions and moving on. I want you to try your absolute best to actually talk and have a slow conversation with your language partner or tutor about your jobs and actually talk about it, discuss. Try your best. It's going to be hard, but try. Do what you can. And then we have a video practice, which is going to be a really challenging one. This one's going to be real challenging. And I don't know what kind of videos you're going to find, and it's going to be really interesting. Depends on the language. You're going to go into YouTube. You're going to search interview role play in your target language. Now, you might need to ask your tutor or your language partner like how you might phrase something like that, right? But let me show you the kind of videos you're looking for. And you're going to watch these interview role plays. You're going to watch them and try and understand. You might even take away what some of the job interview questions are. Maybe you might even try and prepare your own answer to it to the best of your ability, of course. It's an interesting cultural note, right? Like you'll learn something from it. It's a really interesting. Different countries have different practices around job interviews. So let me stop my screen share and let me show you what you might search and what kinds of things you may be looking for on YouTube. So if we go here, share screen. Okay. So if we search, for example, how to prepare for a job, or actually, sorry, that's not what it was. Job interview examples, for example. Right, so here we have two people and they're going to do a mock, like a fake job interview, right? If you're learning, for instance, Spanish, you might search entrevistas. Is it entrevista in Spanish? I realized, how do you say job interview? Entrevista de trabajo? Yeah, okay. Trabajo en español. Right, see what we get. Here we go. Cómo hacer una entrevista de trabajo en español. How to prepare for a job interview in Spanish, B2. as I pre-warn you, these are going to be hard videos to watch, and your level is quite low currently to fully understand these videos. I'm just a believer of watching things that are for native speakers, right? Even if you're a beginner and trying to take away even a little bit from them, I think it's quite beneficial. Depending on the language, you may be able to find some things that are dumbed down. Like if you look at this one, actually, la entrevista de trabajo, español nivel B1. Like this is a simplified job interview, right, for Spanish that you may choose to watch, and that may be quite useful for you. So if you can find things that are simplified more towards a beginner level, that's great. And you can try watching those too, but you may not get that lucky. You may not. And so do your best. And the goal is to remember, try and learn 5 or 10 things, new words, new phrases, things like that, new verbs that you can try to use by yourself, right, per video that you watch. And that already becomes a big win. But of course, remember, use your applications, use things that are level appropriate too. Don't just rely on things that are for advanced speakers like I'm showing you. Use level appropriate resources too, mix and match. Okay. And I believe, if I'm not mistaken, let me share my screen again. If I'm not mistaken, that takes us to the end of this job section. Here we are, extra notes. That's the end of the chapter. Now we get to step 4, which is describing where you live. So everybody, thank you for watching this video here. I hope you learned something from it. Hope it was useful for you. Good luck on your journey of learning, another foreign language. I have a funny little thing I want to show you, which is hilarious, at least to me. I have my headphones in, but they're plugged into my phone. How useless is that? I'm using my laptop to record, and my headphones are in my phone. That's so silly. Anyway, I appreciate your attention. We'll talk later. Bye for now. See you.